Morris now, and I think with Lee's background in horticulture and agriculture, it's going to be a nice follow-on to link that some of the discussions, starting off with resilience, land use now and agriculture, and of course security. So welcome to Lee Morris.
Good morning everyone, it's great to be here. I've been on Ireland for just over a year now. My wife has the proper job, so to speak, but since I've been here about 14 months, I've been involved in a number of areas around natural capital, some around marine, some around waste management and ascension. But today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project that I was invited to be part of last April with the St Helena government looking at upskilling of agriculture. So just to get a little bit of participation before I talk to you, just hands up, agriculture, I think this is the first topic that's actually had agriculture in the title over the last 3 days, but there's been a few people who've mentioned agriculture. So can I just have a show of hands of people that have worked in agriculture, either directly or indirectly? Just hands up. And for the purpose of the radio, I would estimate that's about 15% of the people in the room have actually worked in or around agriculture. Okay, so my talk today, I need to point that way.
Down.
There you go. I'm going to cover a little bit about agriculture on St Helena, a snapshot of that, why upskilling is important, the training needs analysis, the research phase that was carried out last year, the actions that have come from that to date following the report, the next steps that are planned, and then I'm going to finish off with some potential linkages across all the different islands in the South Atlantic that are here today. So first of all, St Helena agriculture, this is a snapshot, so a scale. Typically St Helena agriculture is small farmers, lots of smallholders. There are a couple of larger farms, Solomon's for example, and then as you go through the agriculture there's field crops, so typically field vegetables. There was some history of fruit in the past, but fruit flies to some degree decimated that. Still a little bit of fruit. Livestock, sheep, cattle, and also some pig production. Tunnel production, or the production of crops in polythene tunnels, is something, great initiative that's been brought in by Enterprise St Helena and the St Helena government over probably, forgive me if I'm wrong, but about the last 5 or 6 years, tunnel production has come in on the island. And the tunnel production has allowed for increased production and some diversity in crops. And the last point there, the home production, and this is one of the challenges I'll come on to later about statistics for agriculture. There's a huge amount of agricultural growing done at home. People have their own potato plot, grow their own cabbages, grow their own lettuces, etc. And there's quite a lot of internal bartering on island between people that do that. So there's a huge amount of home production in the culture on St Helena. So the challenges of agriculture, and many of these have been told to me by the government or from people that I've spoken to. So first of all, the challenge of growing more local food. And this is the same on many remote islands. So local food, healthy diet, eating more fruit and vegetables. My wife is the area that she works in. And if she was here, she would say that it's not the silver bullet for health, but it's certainly an important factor in decreasing issues such as obesity, cardiovascular, diabetes, hypertension, etc. So a healthy diet is important. And any of you that live on St Helena, the way I would describe this, that when I go in a shop and I can see broccoli, it's a good day, I buy it straight away. And sometimes there are lots of potatoes and tomatoes, and then many other days there are none. So there are challenges to local food, and also the imports. You know, fruit and vegetables coming from South Africa, but it costs money. It's money going off island. And so one of the challenges is to how do we keep that money on island, keep it in the St Helena economy. There is a lack of data. This was touched on by Alistair. Now, one thing that I've got a background in, and it came across to me, many of the conversations that I've had is around the next generation, and where's that next generation of farmers and growers and people coming from. The issue of collaboration between producers on the island, what strong representation do they have, who champions their cause. The use of technology. Tunnels are what I would describe as appropriate technology. But there's a vast range of technologies out there that could be used within agriculture and associated industries. And with any developing economy in that area, it's crucial that those technologies chosen are the right one. And then very much all of that comes back to skills. And this is the St Helena Government Agricultural Strategy 2014-20, and right at the core of that, and for the purpose of the radio I'll read it out, is the phrase that the capacity to deliver reforms is strengthened through training and upskilling. So on the basis of that, I was invited to meet with then the head of Enterprise St Helena, the Chief Secretary Roy Burke, etc. last April, and from that we agreed we'd look at some way of upskilling around agriculture. And of course, before you do anything, you need to know what you're trying to do. So there was a research stage at the beginning. And the research stage, and the full report is online, it's quite a tome, I'm sorry, I'm not the most concise in report writing, but there is a short summary you can delve into and a few pictures. But there was a training needs analysis done of St Helena. And so I had quite detailed conversations. The format was, it was semi-structured interviews, sat down with one-to-one with producers, with livestock syndicates, which is very much the culture on the island, with agricultural division of the government, with the Growers Cooperative, with the Farmers Association, Beekeepers Association, la la la. So lots of conversations to pull that together. And from that report, there were some recommendations, as reports have. And those recommendations, please don't read this pyramid, but this pyramid is there because my feeling was that there's not one level of society on St Helena that needs to be developed. You can't just train the producers on how to grow or farm better. You need to go across the society, and so I think there needs to be a pyramid of upskilling. And at the bottom you start with the public and the community groups, events like this today, being able to get agriculture on the map and get people thinking about it, then working up through producers, the agricultural organisations, and right to the top of the pyramid. It's great to see some councils, etc. here today in the government, so that agriculture becomes important right across St Helena society. So within that, there was schools, education and careers, training and research and development, the use of international and, importantly, crucially, people were saying local expertise. There's a lot of local expertise that we'll come back to. That community engagement, and then, yes, a producer development plan. How do we get the producers involved? So it's brilliant. I couldn't have timed this better. For Prince Andrews, there's a whole group in terms of the radio at the back now, Prince Andrews students. I'd love to have more dialogue with you, but time won't allow. But really I'm speaking more to you guys now. So this is not my picture, this is an extra slide I put in, but this came from Denny's talk and Demetrius's talk, and the one bit I want you to focus on there, this was a process of what people do in the natural environment on St Helena, and the key stat there for me is gardening, which has got a big 0 against under 35s. Now, I've been involved in this in the UK, I know the challenges, in some countries it's better than others, but 0 in their research are involved in gardening in St Helena. So, with that in mind, how do we try and nudge that forward if we accept that it is important, it's a key area? Well, first of all, I think the good news is that from what I've seen, Prince Andrews School has got a fantastic resource in the Harper Centre. It's a brilliant classroom, go and have a look at it. So there's this fantastic building, and there is a culture in the past of teaching agriculture at the school. Now, for the last few years, I've been told that agriculture has not been taught because not enough children, pupils have put their hands up to say, we want to study agriculture. So because of that, it sits there. It's not totally dormant, but it's not that widely used. So what I've recommended, and actually interestingly, people are telling me that they've had exactly the same thoughts for many years. So I'm not claiming to be the innovator here, I'm reinforcing existing thinking on the island, is that instead of teaching agriculture, we look to teach something called land-based. Now, land-based is a term that encompasses agriculture, horticulture, but crucially for St Helena, it also encompasses conservation, fisheries, forestry, all animal care, all those land-based disciplines. So land-based, read natural capital. So there's the opportunity to have a validated programme through City and Guilds, which St Helena is already a centre for, at level 2, which is GCSE equivalent, to inspire and engage with more young St Helenians and people on Ireland around that whole natural capital issue. Imagine the vision of people, coming along and delivering Lauren's coming along to teach a session on the peaks that's within the teaching scheme. That's the sort of ambition that I think could be delivered, and it already exists. And then you've got this whole issue of careers. How do we inspire, and I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up, but how do we inspire people like that there are real careers within natural capital areas, within land-based areas? And in the UK and other countries, something called STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, they've realised now that in some of these land-based disciplines, there's massive and really great, interesting careers for young people. And sometimes it's just a case of showing them that and then enabling the solution for them to go from there, and then from that they can go off into environmental studies, high technology, etc., etc. So there's a pathway that's been proven in other countries to work, and the plan is now in St Helena is to start developing that pathway here. In terms of producer development plan, these are the priorities that were identified, again, by the people on Ireland. I'm not going to go into detail, I'm just going to highlight. So, first one is crop scheduling. How do we get more crops available every day in the shops? And so already we've run 2 workshops where we've brought some of the merchants and some of the producers together to actually have those conversations about how do we get around to crop scheduling? How do we communicate the data and the targets of what we're doing? I'm not saying, again, there's been a silver bullet there, but the feedback and what's come back from the people that's been at those workshops is that how much they value it and they want to come back and continue nudging that forward. Other areas that they've identified in needing skills, integrated pest management. How do we use all the different strategies to control some of these pests and diseases on island? Pasture management. Someone from the RSPB told me recently that if you want to look after wirebirds on the island, in terms of conservation issue, you need to kill cats, count wirebirds, and sort the grassland out. And interestingly, it's the same grassland for wirebirds that the sheep eat. So there's a real connectivity there in terms of natural capital across grassland and pasture management. Agribusiness skills. How do we give our producers more skills in terms of gross margin analysis? How do we know how to set their prices? What's the value of crops coming from South Africa? Egg production. I've got a secret egg supplier. There's always some way to get eggs, but not everyone gets eggs every week. And then last but not least, soils management. There's lots of technology to be able to go out and take the readings of soil management, what are pHs, what your nitrogen levels in the soil are. But crucially, what people were saying is that how do you interpret that? How do you then say, oh, my pH is 6.3, great. Now what do I do? How does that relate? And clearly that knowledge is here. You know, there are some great extension workers that have that knowledge, but it's not always getting to the people to help them use it. So they're the priorities for the producer development plan. Now, it's really fundamental for government here, and also for me personally, that this is producer-led. That it shouldn't just be me sitting down deciding how we run a training course. So this is a copy of an advert. That's the reason for the text you might not be able to read at the back. But this has been put out by the Agricultural Division to recruit people to be part of an agricultural skills group on the island. And the ambition is, well, I go beyond that, but the plan is that we're going to be sat around the table with me and others deciding on exactly how we run the programmes, who's going to be that, who the key audiences are, so that it's very much participatory. Another key area in terms of this is sustaining it. How do we deliver that? And again, I'm very conscious that in small islands, as many of you have, we fly in, we hopefully try and help, we're all infused, we try and do something good, and then we fly away again. And probably that's inevitable. But the sustainability was a word that was said strongly on day one. And so what we are doing now in terms of trying to sustain this upskilling is the first stage is to deliver a Train the Trainer programme. And so we're halfway through this programme now, and a couple of the people on that programme are in the room, but we've got 12 saints that all work in what I would call natural capital areas. Some work for the Trust, some work for the Environment Management Division, some work for the Agricultural Division. Some of them are really competent teachers already, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're trying to give a core of people the skills that will enable them to pass on their skills and knowledge better. It's not that they don't do it now, but we want to try and raise the bar. And then the ambition is that some of those people will then work with me in terms of delivering some of the training programmes, and also work hopefully with the land-based delivery at Prince Andrews, so that they might be some of the people that do one session in the programme at Prince Andrews on the land-based course. So it really does embed it across the culture of St Helena. And just to sustain that programme, and I won't embarrass the people in there that are doing this, but there's a couple of people in there that are far more competent teachers than I am, but they're doing the course first so that they can hopefully, you know, improve what I've done, but then deliver it beyond me so that there's a sustainable Train the Trainer programme on island run long after I've gone. So sustainability is really key. And the last topic I want to touch on is island linkages. So I mentioned that I'd been to Ascension last year, and I went there to actually help the Ascension government roll out their waste management strategy. But while I was there, I was invited to go and visit the horticultural farm, and there's a hydroponic farm that was set up 2016 in response to the Royal Mail ship going. So their ambition again was for local food security, set up a hydroponic farm and do that. So they've gone through that process. In the Falkland Islands, I know the guy that led this, that guy called Martin Emmett, went down to the Falkland Islands he went 2 visits with 2 other people in 2016, 2017 to do a piece of work for the Falkland Islands government. This report's online and I encourage everyone to have a look at this. And what's really fascinating is they went through the gross margin process for individual crops on the Falkland Islands, and they've also identified a training and upskilling plan there. But they haven't delivered it yet, but there's a plan in place of an ambition of what they'd like to do for training and upskilling. And then even the most remote island, although South Georgia, Sue, you might disagree, and you're not on here because there's no crop growing on South, no. But this was Neil Swain, who went to Harper Adams University to learn about agricultural skills at Harper Adams University. So I want to just, for my last 2 minutes, just talk about maybe some of the potential opportunities. So in terms of knowledge sharing, there's been some fantastic knowledge sharing across the islands already that's been totally natural. So, for example, the 2 biggest hydroponic farmers on St Helena are a guy called Martin Joshua and Nicky Stevens. Nicky Stevens learned how to grow hydroponic crops when he worked for the Falkland Islands farm, and Martin Joshua learned how to farm hydroponically when he was the fire officer on Ascension, and he set up his own lettuce business in his back garden to grow lettuces to sell on island. Now, imagine that knowledge has now come back to St Helena, but there's potential for some knowledge to go around the different islands. So I would encourage an opportunity for more knowledge sharing. But my last opportunity, I think, across islands is for the opportunity to have a joint consultancy agreement. Harper Adams, the Vice Chancellor of Harper Adams, who is an extremely busy guy, I've had meetings with him in the past in previous roles in the UK. We always had to go through his PA, and it always took 3 days to get a response. When I sent him an email last year doing the training needs analysis, I had an immediate 3-paragraph response from him the same day, saying, "Dear Lee, fantastic to hear from you. I visited St Helena as an undergraduate. What a wonderful island. We'd love to help you. Oh, we've done some work on Tristan da Cunha as well. And wouldn't it be great if we could, the same questions about hydroponics could be asked." So maybe there's an efficiency and a cost saving by having one potential consultancy agreement with someone like Harper Adams or NIAB or others. I'm not saying that there's a one-stop shop there. So there's some potential there. So to finish off, to summarise, and I think that I'm going to put some words over that, but that to me explains why St Helena's natural capital is underpinned with agriculture. So that's a picture of a farm out near Blue Point, the ocean's right there, you've got a few native species over there, you've got crops growing here, there isn't a sheep in the picture but there's the sheep in there. It's a really little microcosm of that. So agriculture is important. Upskilling is required, but it needs to be appropriate. Delivery is commenced. It's producer-led. We've got to use and build on existing local capacity. The next generation, you guys at the back and others, are really fundamentally important in this to keep agriculture going forward. And certainly island-wide, it's very much linked into natural capital, and I would suggest that there's an opportunity to link it into other islands as well. Thank you.